Nice.
I don't know why my internet is going so slow. I'm trying to check in the Facebook Live. But I know why it's so slow. My wife is with 30 kids. Okay, it says we're live. Go ahead, Renata.
Good morning, everyone. We welcome you to 1 Million Cups today. If everyone could please take a moment to check in. You can do that by downloading the 1 Million Cups app, creating an account if you don't already have one existing, and make sure that you select the Fairfax County, Virginia location, and then select today's event to check in. Next slide. 1 Million Cups is a entrepreneurship community in education. We are a mastermind. I'm here to collaborate for entrepreneurs in our community. Next slide. The mission of 1 Million Cups is to lower the barrier of access to education, resources, and connections for all types of new and aspiring entrepreneurs throughout the U.S. Next slide. Our key pillars are that we are doing presentation, not pitches. We also allow for authentic connections and not networking. And we run for the community and by the community. Next slide. We offer a safe, supportive environment. And 1 Million Cups is co-owned by all who show up and support our radical and intentional inclusivity. 1 Million Cups is all volunteer-led and rotates new organizers often and fills your presenter pipeline together as a community. Next slide. We welcome everyone to join the community. In order to get our news, engage online, provide feedback, and we ask that you attend each week. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube as well. Next slide. These are our organizers: Donnell Johns, Jen Dalton, Tony Barrett, Burnett, Mayosha Mendez, Eshjan Yu, Melinda Siegel, L. John Rutenberger, myself, Justin, and Russ as McIntosh. Next slide. Our sponsors are Office Evolution and Dr. Deb this month. Dr. Deb, if you're on, or Sylvie, would you like to present?
Yeah. Oh, it doesn't matter. I was told I was supposed to introduce. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Sylvia Ferguson, and I'm with Office Evolution, Tyson's Corner.
I apologize for being late this morning. Let me get the document open real quick, and we'll move through fast.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was hearing some background noise. So yeah, so at Office Evolution, we provide private offices, conference rooms, virtual offices, phone services, and a professional business address. So if you have any questions or you're in need of any of these, please reach out to me here at Office Evolution Tyson's Corner. Again, my name is Sylvia Ferguson, and welcome to 1 Million Cups.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Deb Cohen, as Donnell likes to call me. I apologize if you hear that background noise, but I am on vacation, and that is the sound of the ocean behind me. So hope you guys have a great meeting this morning. I'm glad to be joining you, at least for the first part of it. I really appreciate the opportunity to be a sponsor of coffee. Since I can't be with you in person, I'm going to pop some things into the chat box, some pieces of information that you might find useful. I am an author, a trainer, a management consultant, and an expert witness. And in previous lives, I was a college professor and an association executive. And now I help organizations develop their employees, and I help them stay on track with strategy through facilitation and things of that nature. You know, I really enjoy helping individual managers with their development and organizations with fuller blown development plans in terms of how to keep managers on track. And I actually have launched a relatively new employee development during COVID section, which you can find on my website. And I'll pop some information into the chat. Have a great morning, everyone. And thanks for being a part of 1 Million Cups.
So we're a virtual meeting space, and we ask that everyone please mute their microphones during the presentation. To ask questions during the Q&A time, you will participate in the discussion by using the hand wave icon in the chat section to announce to the moderator that you have a question, or you may type your question for the moderator to read in the chat box. If the moderator says your name, please unmute your microphone, say your name and who you are with, and then ask your question or make your comment. Please put your microphone back on mute when you're finished speaking. Next slide. Today, we will have Crown Fox Adventures present. Next slide. And you may take it away now.
Sorry about that. The unmute button disappeared on me. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for having me here. My name is Steve Renard from Crown Fox Adventures, which is a company that I started about a year ago. And my and actually this challenge question is different than than the one that I had posted in the slides, but that's okay. We will. So my challenge question, if everybody can keep it in mind, is actually what can I do to raise awareness about my company, and who are some people that I could partner with or thought leadership venues that I could look at for raising awareness about my company. What I've found is that I have good success when I can talk to people directly about working with them. And I'll talk a little bit more about what I do with folks in a minute. But my marketing efforts have been kind of falling flat. So what I do is I work with people on presence and confidence and connection on camera and on stage. I have a background as a video producer, and my work is really helping people to build a connection with their audience on camera and on stage. Trying to get the slide to go ahead here. Yeah, another way to say it would be I sell confidence and connection on camera and stage. So everybody wants to look self-assured and confident and be really their most authentic self in those situations, in those high pressure, high value situations. But how do you do that when all you feel is really, really small? And the answer is you have to take an inside out approach. And lots of lots of coaches who work with people on speaking or camera presence take more of an outside in approach, working on particular gestures or things like that. That's something that that I've noticed in going to some Toastmasters groups, is there's a lot of focus on the gestures and the outside presentation, but nobody seems to pay attention. You know, what do you have to do in here first to make sure that you're going to build that connection? And so that's what I work with people on. Whoops. Sorry, Tony, the click was slow and I accidentally ended the show there as I was clicking. I can just say next slide if you want to take control from here. Or maybe it's easier if I I'm just going to share my screen real quick to go to my next slide. So hopefully everybody can see my screen. So what I offer to people is in descending realm of cost is one-on-one coaching. I have a mastermind group that I'm planning to start in 2021. I do workshops where I do 15 to 20 people together in a workshop, and we work on the psychology aspects, those internal aspects. We work on some of the technical aspects of how to present yourself in a virtual environment like we're in today, how you can make sure that you're looking and sounding your best so that you are confident that people can hear you and see you well. I have an online course that's going to be releasing before the end of the year. And I have a free PDF lead magnet that's on my site as well, that I've been working on trying to get people to get. Some of my current clients include a nonprofit startup that I've worked with on. We started out focusing on presence with the CEO of this nonprofit, and he actually decided not to go the path that he was looking at originally, and so we ended up doing some more communications work there. Campaign for a local Democratic committee chairmanship, and a small business owner who's really more of my wheelhouse is a small business owner who's working on developing presence for her video marketing work, and it's really about developing that humanity. So that, so many people, when they step out onto a stage or step in front of a camera, it's almost like they turn into a different person. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, something changes about them. And we work on sort of peeling that away and making sure that we're seeing their true authentic selves. But like I say, my biggest challenge has been marketing. I can make the sale when when I'm talking to an interested individual, but I've had a hard time getting in front of those people and finding the right people to talk to. And so my challenge question is, what can I do to raise awareness? Who can I partner with? What are that I could use? And one of the slides that I missed earlier, actually, with technical stuff, was Jen, when I was talking to her earlier, mentioned that people will want to know where the name of my company came from. It's actually just a translation of my name. Stephen comes from Stephanos, which is Greek for wreath or crown. Renard is French for fox, and adventures is it's all about bringing your audience along in the adventure. You need to be excited about what you're talking about. It needs to be an adventure for you, and so you need to be ready to bring your audience along on that adventure too. So I will stop sharing my screen and put myself on the hot seat here and take questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. That was a very helpful presentation. I appreciate you sharing more about your company. For folks who want to ask questions, you can drop questions into chat. You can also click on participants, and you can raise your hand with the blue button. So if there's anybody who has questions, please drop a question in. Steve, what is the marketing that has worked so far? And then we'll go to Rosemary after that.
Sure. Yeah. So what's worked best for me so far is directly talking to people, going to networking events or having individual conversations with people. Basically any other marketing that I've done has kind of fallen flat. whether it's been some video marketing that I did earlier this year, or some sort of minimal LinkedIn ad buys that I did trying to get a message out there. It's all kind of fallen flat for me, and I'm not sure where the disconnect is exactly between me talking to somebody, whether it's on the phone or in person pre-COVID. The more marketing or the any other kind of marketing, really.
Okay, your Wi-Fi is a little bit bouncy, or maybe that's just me, but let's have Rosemary. Why don't you go ahead and kick us off with the next question?
Sure. Hi, Steve. It's great to see you.
Good to
I
see
love
you.
hearing about your business. So thanks for sharing with us today. I think we all have this challenge question for our business. For you particularly, because I know that your passion is helping people be their authentic self in front of other people.
Mm-hmm.
There is still a very, very lively pitch environment that's going on for entrepreneurs in the DMV area. And there are at least 3 different organizations I can think of that do pitching on a regular basis. And I think they would be really good partners for you to reach out to. This is Connectpreneur. They do a monthly pitch session, and they do a number of other sessions. There's DCA Live, where they do some work, and I can connect you with the people who run both of those. And there's 2 or 3 more that I'll dig through my subconscious to pull up. But one of the reasons I think about those groups is that they're typically people like me, right? My forte is building scalable businesses, not necessarily presenting to 250 investors in a Zoom call. And having someone like you to help prepare myself for something like that would be helpful. So I'll connect you up with those folks in email, and you can take it from there.
Awesome, thank you. And the first one you mentioned was DC Frempreneur. You glitched out a little bit for me.
No, Connectpreneur, which is
Connectpreneur. I'm sorry.
TN Long. I don't know if you know TN, but they do a regular cadence of video, and with people whose forte is not being on a video or presenting on a stage. Once we all get back to presenting on a stage, they do stage presentations with between 10 and 12 per month. So there's quite a fertile opportunity for you there.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
John Gaffigan, go ahead.
Oh, I just came off mute. I made a comment here. Maybe Steve, you get folks that have had good feedback to see if they'll give you a little shout out that you could post up on like a client feedback wall on your website. And once you have, I would say maybe 5, then throw them up there. I mean, less than 5 and it feels a little bit thin, but if you can get it up to 9, 10. Double digits, I mean, that's good too. And don't put dates on it so that they kind of are timeless. If people have found value, that's a good way, I think, for others to flock to you. And you can always point folks to say, here's my client feedback wall. These are real people that I've helped over the past couple of years. And just leave it at that. And you can always say, these are the past couple of years, and just keep adding to it. But once you get at least 5 up there, throw it up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but yeah, thank you.
You were breaking up a lot on my end. Again, I took off my video to give more bandwidth. I don't know if other people couldn't hear Steve. It sounds like maybe the whole network might be slow.
Could be. Is it? Are other folks able to hear me? I could stop my video too.
It's in and out.
Okay, I'll stop my video to try to lessen the weight on the bandwidth on my end, but I'm still here listening.
All right, Melinda, go ahead, ask your question, please. Let's make sure we keep the question and answer short so we can get through a lot.
My quick question is about your name, because when I knew you were speaking, I looked up about you and I got really, really confused, but I really liked the little story you told today about your name. And how it came together. And it would almost be cute to see you do that as part of the storyboard, because when people hear your name, they keep thinking Fox and figuring out where does that fit into everything.
Mhm.
You get lost. And maybe part of the problem you're having right now is that some of your audience is stumbling on your name and they're not getting past the stumbling on your name. And
Okay.
as you're trying to get in front of people so that you can start presenting, and that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. All right. I'll have to think about how to get that more front and center. Some of the explanation about it.
Well, I know, Steve, yesterday when we spoke, even just adding a tagline can add additional context. It's not perfect, but it helps you tell the story without having to spend a minute to tell the story. Reggie, go ahead.
Hi, Steve. Good to see you as always.
Morning.
The only thing I would add at this point is maybe, so when I think about what you do, it really is for every executive, for every business leader. And I think in your marketing, maybe I would position it as like a essential skill for every executive. Like it sometimes it comes across as like a nice to have, if you feel like you present pretty well naturally or kind of comfortable with that setting. But I think you have the ability to take people beyond their natural gifts in front of a camera or on a stage and take them to a different level. And so if you can better communicate how you can take even someone who is naturally skilled at speaking to a different level, I think that it allows people to see the value a little bit more, because in our world today, the skills that you are equipping people with, you have to have them. They're essential because this is the way that people find out about who you are and what you do. And they're most likely going to encounter you through a digital or video type of format. So your services are essential, and I think you need to kind of position what you do as such, not just, hey, this is nice to have or something you can add on, but you really you have to work with Steve, because this is how business is getting done. This is how people are encountering your opportunity. So I would position it a little bit more forcefully, I think.
Okay. That's a great idea. Thank you, Reggie.
Mary, go ahead.
Hi, that was a great, nice, short, to the point presentation. You did a great job. I haven't been in the corporate world in so long, but I have several friends, and they all seem to have sort of life coaches as you sort of move up the corporate ladder. And I wonder if there's some way you could get in front of those people and they can see it, as something that they can offer to the executives, because I'm sure people need it. I don't know quite, I think you have to find out how that's paid and who pays what and where the money idea comes from. But I don't know if that might be LinkedIn, Jen, or if there's specific networks with that type of person. But I think it might make sense to go in that way, because their job is to make the best of these leaders and executives.
Yeah. And I have talked to a few of those folks. I haven't gotten to the point of getting to work with any of their clients yet, but I've had that kind of thing in mind. It's certainly something to keep working on, I think.
Steve, when you assess a presentation or a speaker, do you have a framework that you use, or a sort of mental model or approach?
Yeah, my model is it's very much that inside out idea that I was talking about before. We start off thinking about what are the because hardly anybody will get up in front of an audience or in front of a camera and not be nervous or not nervous necessarily, but we'll have a totally neutral experience. Let's put it that way. There's going to be some sort of emotional reaction that they have to that, and so we start with the emotional reaction that they have, and figuring out what in their background might be causing that emotional reaction, and then how they can respond to it and call on parts of themselves that are going to work better in that situation, that are going to help them to build that human connection with the audience. That's sort of step one. Step two, it's, you know, for somebody who's doing virtual stuff, we work on, like I say, some of the technical aspects of showing up virtually. Obviously, nobody can see me on camera right now because of internet issues, but but I have a whole setup here for trying to make sure that I'm seen and heard as well as I can be. And then the last part is figuring out, helping people figure out those last couple minutes before they actually give that presentation. You know, what are the things that they need to be aware of in those last moments to make sure that they are really going to build that connection and that they have the right mindset going into that. And just, you know, and from there, it's a question of practice, but it's, you know, I like to help people practice better, not practice more.
I think for, as a speaker, I think one thing that would be helpful when you think about a framework or a model is to codify it, right? We go through these 5 steps, we assess these 20 things. You don't have to give away your secret sauce, but make it very apparent what you do. And then I would try to find speakers like Reggie, Talmar, myself, others on the video call, and ask us nicely if we'll let you assess us, right? And like, then we can experience your process. We can give you a testimonial. But I think it's hard sometimes to know how to refer someone if you haven't had some consults where you can have a mini sort of case study, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So just a thought. My other thought, if anybody else has a question, please raise their hand. I would recommend reaching out to event planners, especially event planners who are doing virtual conferences where they want to have their speakers either vetted or trained. Okay. Because the virtual delivery right now is very different than in person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're going to assess slides plus the speaker and delivery, that's a pretty valuable deal.
Awesome. Thank you.
Other questions or thoughts from folks who do speaking or who are interested in learning how to speak? What would help? Go ahead, Rosemary, again.
Steve, you mentioned that you're currently working with someone who is politically involved. You might want to go back to that person and find out what their grassroots connections are. There's a lot of video work that's being done by the grassroots on both sides of the political spectrum and in the middle as well. And there may be some opportunity for you to sponsor or become engaged in, ongoing forums, people who do a lot of thought leadership in that environment, and, really kind of see from their perspective who they think would be good for you to talk to.
Okay. Yeah, I'll reach out and see if I can find some more connections there. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Reggie, go ahead.
Well, yeah, one other idea is kind of like the idea of a like a speaker lab. So, someone volunteers to give a short presentation, or it's recorded, and you kind of break down what works well, and then what could be better. But it's done in a way that is very insightful for people, even people who think they know a lot about what you do. And it's not to like tear the person down, but it's really just to give insight about what's working well, and so people can see a little bit about how you work, and your methodology and approach. But it's done in an environment where it's collaborative, and people can just kind of peep in for a little bit and learn something. And so it doesn't give away everything about how you do what you do, but it gives people enough of a glimpse of how it works to want to know more. So, and that's something that you can invite people to volunteer to be the person that gets critique, or kind of do that for groups that you're already connected with, and drum
Okay.
up interest in that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you.
Mhm.
Tony, you might be on mute.
Okay, I'm up. Cool. So quick question. Are you currently using video on LinkedIn and doing any kind of like video presentation or video chats on LinkedIn, like a quick 1 or 2 minute video about you or what's going on, or even what's topical in, anything, everything, and all together? Have you done anything like that?
I did some things earlier this year. I wasn't really happy with how they turned out, but I have been turning back to that recently and trying to make sure that it's more what I wanted it to be. So I mean, I guess the answer is yes and no.
Well, I had a friend of mine who's trying to get me to do it, and I understand. I just don't have what I thought is anything valid to say. But you were on topic with regards to developing your business, and it's a very, very sensitive but also wide open area of what you're doing. People want to have a better public image. They want to come across better on video, and they want to come across better on stage. So doing a quick vignette, on either a weekly or even a daily basis about something that you see in the news or something that comes up that, someone's made a faux pas, and how, gee, if only they'd come and spoken to me before doing it, how much better could it have been? And you do that, start doing it on a daily basis. And I have friends who are doing it now and getting into the cycle, and they share it with their circle of people on LinkedIn, who then share it and comment, and then it starts to disseminate out. And John Gaffigan and I both have a particular salesman. He does a weekly, like, walking through his neighborhood, I think, and talking about something in sales. Brilliant guy. And he gets a lot of feedback and a lot of referrals to him. So that may be a thought to try and get more into that on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Awesome idea. Thank you. Devin, go ahead.
Good morning. So I just had a question about your name SEO wise. Have you had any issues, or maybe have you seen positive results from your naming convention online? And do you feel like your audience can find you online?
That is a good question. To be honest, I don't really know. I don't know enough about SEO. I've been trying to learn about it, but I don't know enough about it to be able to say clearly whether that's working. Is there more that I can say? As I said to Jen when we were talking about this and preparing for it, I came into starting a business having been in the video world for 20 years, and sort of marketing adjacent. And so I thought I knew a little bit about marketing, and having started a business, discovered that I didn't actually. So
yeah, there's a lot to it.
So there's a lot to it that I'm still trying to learn.
Yeah, I was just curious because sometimes naming conventions could be tricky because you don't want to be too obvious. Like, you don't want to say Blossom's Flower Shop. You could be unique and still have those, reach a specific audience. So I was just curious about, could that naming convention work? Could you have a strategy around that could draw an audience in that you're reaching your specific audience? So I was just curious. Thank you for your time.
Sorry, I can't give you a better answer on that.
That's all good.
And Rick, go ahead.
Hi, Steve. I just wanted to say I think I like some of the comments I'm hearing, and just keying off of Tony's idea. I think the important thing is to show some of the techniques. Everybody gets worried about the secret sauce, and you can read, a book about Tiger and how to play golf, and that's not going to give you, it's the skill of the people that apply the techniques. And I think, you know, if you thought about using yourself to create a video for marketing of kind of a before and after, highlighting a couple of simple techniques that just playing on it, what everyone else has said, kind of gets people thinking that, you know, wow, I'd really like some evaluation to help myself.
Okay. That's
Steve,
a
just
great idea. Thank you.
a follow-up question. Because you did video for 20 years, is that a niche where if you said you really coached people on how to speak for a video, that could help you stand out a bit more? Because coaching speaking is very broad.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I have thought about how to approach that. And my inclination has been to stay with the broad, excuse me. My inclination has been to stay with the broader look, but I've gone back and forth on that, you know, as to whether to be more specific about video or not. I'm not sure if that's an answer to your question exactly.
Well, it's just something to consider, because if you are really good at helping people stand out on video with the amount of online courses people are doing and being virtual, etc., it might just give you more lift. Hey, Deb Cohen, go ahead.
Hello, I believe I recommended in the chat box that you consider an organization called ASAE. It's the Association for Association Executives. And I think you mentioned at the beginning that one of your current clients is a nonprofit. So if that's a space that you think is good for you, ASAE may work. Now, I don't know what they're doing in pandemic times, but they used to have quite a few networking events by target area. So it could be, you might fit with the marketing and communications folks, that sort of thing. But oftentimes the smaller nonprofits, the decision makers actually go to those meetings. So that might be something for you to check out.
Okay.
And since you mentioned that you do better with face-to-face networking, then that might actually work well for you once you can get face-to-face, or if they do something like this, you know, a Zoom type of meeting.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Thank you. Yeah, and I'm familiar with ASAE. I hadn't seen some of their networking stuff, but I'll have to take a closer look at it.
Yeah, and they do have conferences as well. Not now, I assume, but they do.
Yeah.
Melinda, go ahead.
I had a couple of thoughts, and one is when I was talking about the fox, all of a sudden I remembered something from a long time ago. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
Yeah.
And then I thought, hey, you could write a story, and the lazy dog is all of these things that speakers have a hard time jumping over so that they can be comfortable talking. And then I thought, some of the books that I've really liked in business books are fables like that, which could be a lot of fun to do something. You could also, after you write it, get it illustrated and become a speaker everywhere and lead off with your video. I mean, I think that would be really, really good for your brand and just make everything come together.
Yeah.
And I love Deb's thought just now on ASAE. They used to have two local groups in Northern Virginia. One was in Alexandria and one was in Fairfax. And the one in Alexandria used to meet Thursday mornings, the third Thursday of the month.
Okay.
Call ASAE and ask them if any of these groups are, and maybe around the country now that everything is viral anyway, and see if you can be a speaker for one of the viral groups.
Okay. Excellent. I love the idea of the fable. I'll have to work on that. Thank you.
Mary, go ahead. Mary, if you want to unmute, you can ask your question. Mary.
Mary or Mary Beth, I thought you said.
Mary.
Me?
You. Yes.
My question is gone. I decided it wasn't worth it. So I don't have one.
Well, if it comes back or if you have another one, let us know.
Thank you.
I will try to speak more clearly and not mumble. Any other questions from folks in the audience? I was going to throw out one idea. Steve, what if people submitted like a 1 or 2 minute snippet or 5 minute snippet and just asked you to do an assessment, right? And you could review it, give them feedback, but just start to build that muscle of assessing. And that could be a good lead gen if you wanted to treat it that way. You could even charge for that. It doesn't have to be free, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Talmar, you were nodding your head and you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
It was totally a thought that I had, and I felt like enough people were suggesting. First of all, Steve, thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
I really do love the idea of the assessments. It's such a quick and easy way to highlight your expertise and help people understand how it can affect change for them. And I would suggest even combining Tony's idea of a consistent weekly thing that you do. You could encourage people to apply to be highlighted. I would make it a thing where you do it live, or you put the video on social media so that they can tune in and see how you're helping other people and how it applies to them. And I think that could be a really nice way of combining the Jen's idea and Tony's idea to develop that consistency. But get it out. Don't wait for perfectionism. I heard you say you started something and you pulled it off. Don't wait for perfectionism. Get it out there, be consistent, and that's how you'll start to get your following.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that mean, Tama, you're going to volunteer? No, maybe. Sure. She's like,
yeah, I would do that. Yeah. Who doesn't want to be better at that? Yeah, of course.
I'll be on the same show, and then you can give Tama and I both feedback, and we'll support each other
awesome.
in chat.
Sounds good.
Rick, you were asking about Fiverr. Can you give us some more background? What were you thinking?
Steve, I was thinking back to you had talked about SEO and marketing and some things, and for some of us entrepreneurs that aren't experts like yourself, Fiverr is kind of a platform for consulting and people who perform things like preparing PowerPoint slides. I mean, there's a whole more than I can talk about of talent out there listed, and maybe a place even to list yourself in the marketing, where people put up bids or ask for somebody to create a logo or to help them with their SEO, and they bid it and commit to do it, and it's a way to get talent to support you. And there are a couple of platforms out there. It's just the first one I thought of that particularly focuses on marketing and such, but it's got a pretty wide range of things they do, and the talent is from all over the world. So you can kind of, say, well, I only want someone from the United States because I'm looking for English as the first language, or whatever criteria you would have to do it. But it's definitely a resource if you've got the budget, and usually it's not a lot of money to get help in areas.
Thank you, Rick.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
And Tony, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, Steve, real quick. One of the thoughts that occurred to me was, since you are coaching people from different situations and your background in video that it is, I think if you make your videos really like natural life, like people have a hard time coming across the way they envision themselves when they're talking on video or when they're trying to do a video. And when they go back and watch it, they cringe because it's like, well, that's not how I thought I sound or come across naturally. And if you make your videos where they're like everyday life, like washing the car, or going to the store, or even sitting there and going to a networking event where you do a quick, like 2 minutes. It's like, hey, we're doing this, but it comes across and you see, and people see how natural and how presentable and how smooth it is. They realize, okay, this is a guy who can coach me on how to do this right in almost every situation. And I thought maybe that's kind of what you make a thing, is that each week or every day, whatever you do it, it's just kind of like a real life experience, but it comes across so natural and smooth. People realize, yeah, that's the challenge I'm trying to overcome.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'll have to think about how to incorporate that into. I like the idea. I'll have to think about how to incorporate it. Thank you.
Other folks have questions or thoughts they want to share? Steve, one thing you could do, there's quite a few groups in this market who do TEDx coaching. So anytime there's coaching needed for PR, for TED Talks, for conferences, I would start to reach out to conference events and look ahead for what's being scheduled next year. I do think there's a unique play on the video piece. And I love, there are a lot of good ideas today. Melinda has one more idea to add to our list. Go ahead, Melinda. And then Mary.
Writing a book, and one of the things that I've seen other people do is write a book about all of this and get some really big, well-known speakers to write a chapter for the book and then put it together. And then you can write the intro to it, and you then have all these other speakers who will endorse your book, and it might be get the book in front of everyone.
Okay. Okay. That sounds interesting. I'll think about how to put that together.
Proceed with caution. Having just submitted my second book today, it's a lot of work. So just be careful. But that's a great idea to pull in experts. Maybe it's a video interview, maybe it's a panel. I mean, you could do panel interviews with people who speak and ask questions about what they do, and all. Like, there's lots of things you can do to create content for sure around speaking. Mary, you have the last question before I kick it over to Tony for the last question. May unmute you, Mary. Remember your question, don't forget it. All right, go ahead.
No, it wasn't. I decided it wasn't worth it last time. I didn't forget it. But these are not particularly great questions, but I just, two things occurred to me. Like, as we're talking about this, where in the process of these leaders and executives are they realizing that it's a pain point for them? Like, what, obviously people have had to move to virtual, right? But is there, I guess I just asked that question, right? Did they just assume they're good and not want to work on it? Or is there a place somewhere that you can then somehow break in? I just always talking about a pain point and what really is the problem. I guess I just accepted it as a problem when you started. When you started the presentation, I'm like, oh yeah, of course that's a problem, but really sort of maybe narrowing down and zooming into really what that is. And the second thing, this is the one I gave up before, but I do CBT, right? Cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a lot of, I look at a lot of that, and I look at in terms of my business as a parent coach, trying to get people to do with kids, do with kids to avoid these issues later on. And I just don't know. I mean, so many more people are in therapy than you realize. Yeah. And leaders, executives have huge, I mean, it's a huge problem, right? And is there any way to get in front of that? I would think a lot of people are going cognitive. It's exactly what you're talking about, right? What's the underlying issue that keeps you from doing a good job? Is there any way to just, that's a hard group to get in front of, but in front of the therapists, so they just see your information, so that if they are, or talk to a few to ask, anyways, I've made my point. Like, but is that group a good group to get in front of, because they're a path to the person who knows they have that issue? Those are the people that are open to what you do.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm not sure how to get in front of that group exactly. And yeah, and I love the CBT model. I came across the IFS model a few years ago, the internal family systems. And that's the language that I use when I'm working with people. It's talking about parts and what parts are showing up and what parts people need to call on to make sure that they're going to do their best in these stressful situations. What's interesting is
I think one of your hurdles might be is similar to mine is when you get in front, like if I'm working with parents, the parent is as much the issue as the child. And some people are resistant to that, as I'm sure some of your leaders and executives are. You're going to be resistant to the idea that, what do you mean there's something below me? Look how successful I am. But really, that looking inward, there's only a portion of those people, once you get in front of them, will actually accept that that there may be something going on underneath that you're willing to help them with. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you bring up pain points, I mean, that has been the conversations that I've had that haven't gone as well with people, and most of the conversations that I've had with people have been, like I've gotten a client out of it. The ones that haven't gone as well is somebody where I say, I think you can really be better at this, and they say, well, what do you mean? I'm good at this already.
No issues.
And it's so it's getting people to realize that it's a pain point can sometimes be one of those hurdles for me.
But also maybe the way to think of it, and I'll stop, Jen. The other way to think of it is that some of those people you won't get. They are not ever going to recognize that there is emotional crap underneath that's affecting them. So don't waste too much time on those people. I'm not. Right. You're wanting to get the people that it's easier to grab the people that are already half bought in.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I think remembering you're not a therapist. So, find the ones that will buy into to that, because that stuff usually comes up after you've already booked them and you're talking to them more. All right. So Tony, will you ask, I know I see Donnell. He can certainly unmute, but since Tony, we can see you. Can you ask our 1MC question?
Certainly. Thank you. I appreciate the honor of taking over for the illustrious Mr. Johns. Steve, great job today. Really, you've run the gauntlet and you've come out whole. So congratulations to you on that. And you've kept it up with a great humor as well all the way through. And there have been some fantastic ideas and discussions brought up. And I hope that they all help you in one way to move forward. But as the final question of the day, I'd like to ask you, how can the 1 Million Cups community help you?
Well, so one thing I would love to do is Talmar and Jen both, I think, raised their hands as potentially being interested in doing a review of their speaking of, a 1 or 2 minute thing. I would love to do that. The only other thing I would say is if you run into executives who are giving presentations, who are going to be in one of these situations where they're going to be on camera or on stage or anything like that, and they seem like they could use some help, if you could point them my way, I would really appreciate it.
Okay, awesome. Well, everyone who wants to follow up with Steve, please make sure you put your contact information into the comments in the chat section so that they can go ahead and he can follow up with you and reach out to you individually and facilitate some of that. So, Ronetta, back over to you.
Great job today, Steve. Next slide. So thank you everyone for coming out today for our 1 Million Cups meeting. And we are always looking for presenters. You can very easily apply at 1millioncups.com/present. Next slide. So our upcoming presenters will be a wild ride called Life on October 21st. And then we will be having on October 28th, Pluribus. As we are still looking for our presenters in November, and we welcome your applications. Next slide. We have upcoming events that are listed here. Here we have the Central Fairfax Chamber of Commerce events that are located on their website, www.cfcc.org. And then we also have a Facebook Live on Wednesday, October 14th, which will be spotlighting DC fempreneurs. And on October 20th, we had the Northern Virginia Virtual Speed Eat Networking And on the 21st of October, we have Preparing Your Pitch, Best Practices in Developing in Your Business Briefing with Prince William County. Do we have any other upcoming events that are not listed?
Talmar, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll drop it in the chat, but I actually have 2 next week coming up that I'd love to tell you about. The first one is October 22nd at 2 p.m. Eastern. These are both virtual. We have a panel discussion on navigating forward through hiring. And we have 3 great experts. Boss Actions has partnered with University of Phoenix, and we will be delivering insights and tips on how business owners and entrepreneurs can make sure to get the best out of their hiring. I'm really excited for these panelists. They're amazing people. So I'd love to see you. It's free. I'll make sure to put that in the link. And then October 23rd, Boss Actions is also, let me know, Boss Actions is also hiring, not hiring, sorry. I totally got distracted, I apologize. Boss Actions has an event on Friday the 23rd, and you're invited. So it's a virtual event. It'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern, and it's how to stop the hiring mistakes that are killing your business growth. This is going to be actual content that you can immediately apply to make sure that you are building the team that will let your business take on all those sales that you feel like you're missing out on. All right, I'm putting that all in the chat. Thank you very much.
And do we have any other? Thank you, Talmar.
Rosemary had her hand up.
I'd just like to remind everybody that today is Wednesday at noon. I run my weekly Wednesday webinars, which is a lot to say on 1 cup of coffee, just so you know. I will drop the registration link into the chat, but anyone who has questions about Gravitate or how Gravitate can help you, please join us. Thanks.
All right, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble seeing everyone on the screen today. If there's anyone else, if not, then thank you everyone for coming out and attending today. We are part of the Kauffman Foundation, which works with the communities in entrepreneurship and education to increase opportunities. Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Steve. Great
Thank
job
you.
again. Thank you to Deb for being our
Thank
sponsor,
you.
and Sylvia as well. Have a wonderful rest of the week.
You too. Thank you.